Hi, Wade. So I just have your session in front of me, and I'm going to go through and make a few points. Overall, I really like the precision of your problem statement. I think it's really clean and clear and will provide direction. That said, I do think I question whether you might want to further consider Mike's comment around whether clarification is needed. I understand you've done a lot of discussing about what's going on, but it seems like when you're generating solutions around this challenge, there will be implicit assumptions around what the core challenge is. So for example, people will, if you imagine what they might propose in terms of a solution, there'll be an assumption that the core problem is, for example, communication between departments, or that the core problem is around organizational structure, or that the core problem is around systems. I don't know your problem well enough to give a valid example, but I hope you get my point that it's possible that if you think about the transformation stage, the clarification stage, you put your ladder against a wall and you say this is what we need to focus on solving. It's possible that everybody will put the ladder against the wrong wall in jumping right into transformation. That said, you do know your context. It seems like you've done a great job of sort of priming the pump and talking to people ahead of time. So take this comment simply as sort of just a point for you to consider. I don't necessarily think you need to change everything. So again, you did a great job up front of having those upfront conversations to ready people for this. I thought that was great. I think I think your timelines up front with introduction to the activity, exploring ideas using brainstorming are really strong. I really like that you then have exploring ideas, clarifying, and discussing the various proposed idea. That that you actually are explicitly giving them the time to build on ideas, which actually would be divergent, not convergent, because you're not at this point choosing ideas, you're building on them and expanding on them. Um, and asking clarifications. I think that's great that you put that time in. Um, and yes, your attention to detail around the gold star and the smiley face around exploring ideas, again, great. Um, Having the break, strategically placing the break so that people can so that you can do the tally and work on the convergence. Great idea. People rarely take a 5-minute break, so you might want to play with that. I thought Simona's point um, around around then assessing so many ideas with your criteria was really strong. And so I was wondering a few things. One is whether, in terms of timing, whether you might come in with some of the criteria already established, um, so, so that, and then clearly, I think what will happen is new criteria will come out through the discussion, because basically the criteria are what's important to you, right? And so that will come out, or the criteria you propose will be made more precise through the discussion. But I'm wondering if you come in with a baseline, whether that might, with the here are 5 criteria as a starting point. How might we revise or change them or adapt them, take one out, add one, whether that might expedite the process. So then, yeah, I think I'm wondering if there's any way to expedite the going through so many ideas in an evaluation matrix. And that might be simply saying up front something like, now that we have our criteria, when you scan the ideas, are there any that we should be concerned about and perhaps take out of the picture? And if you do that, then someone might want to defend it. It might lead to some discussion. So I'm not sure if that will lead to time efficiency. Or you might want to do a second round of convergence. Now that we've discussed the criteria, just do dot voting one more time so that you're then assessing really the three, closest contenders for being the winning idea, as opposed to assessing so many through the criteria. Really, when people are doing dot voting, they will be implicitly applying the criteria, right? What is important to them. So if you do another round of just that right after establishing the criteria, and you could say something like, okay, now of these that we've narrowed it down, which, given what we've identified as the key criteria, which would you now say are the ideas that we should most likely go with? So just a suggestion in terms of time. And I really like that you then go into you're really doing a lot of iterative work, and I think that's great. You're really doing a lot of transformation of the ideas in different ways throughout your presentation. So you're transforming again now at the end of your session where you do the black hat and where you put forward the 4 hats and you evaluate the idea. So you know what, your thinking is very clear and logical. Take what I'm saying as a suggestion only. Your problem statement is really strong, and just again, if I were to summarize, it would be actually exactly what your classmates pointed to, questioning whether you could all take an easy without explicitly adding clarification, whether you will all clarify the problem in the most obvious way as a default, and thus not get to a root problem that you should really be exploring. So that's what Mike raised. And then Simona's point about having so many ideas within the matrix, and whether that's really necessary, or whether people can intuitively get to a place where fewer ideas are really in the running, where you would then more rigorously and logically and analytically apply criteria. All right, let me know if you have questions.